Have you been seeing the buzz around Drake's new single, Nokia, and wondering why it suddenly popped up everywhere? Yet somehow, it still feels like it's not actually taking over? Brace yourself, because new revelations are shedding light on how one of the biggest stars in hip-hop may have been caught red-handed padding his streaming stats. While Drake's camp has spent months accusing Kendrick Lamar of fake success, it turns out the real numbers scandal might be closer to home. You are about to learn how Spotify's latest audit has left Drake's reputation hanging in the balance, how Kendrick Lamar has managed to keep thriving without any suspicious bumps, and why some of the loudest accusations against Kendrick might have been pure projection. Stick around. We're going to peel back the layers on OVO's marketing strategy, online influencer tactics, and the cultural shift that's left Drake on the outside looking in. For months, a narrative's been brewing that suggests Kendrick Lamar's recent chart dominance is somehow manufactured. If you've scrolled through social media, you've probably seen Drake's fans claiming that Kendrick's numbers are inflated by behind-the-scenes deals, playlist manipulation, or a bigger music industry agenda designed to overshadow Drake. But here's the kicker. Spotify recently cracked down on artificial streams, and the data they uncovered tells a very different story. After a sweeping audit designed to identify bot-driven streaming, multiple major artists got hit with a hefty correction in their stats. And would you believe it? Kendrick Lamar's numbers didn't budge, not by a single stream. Meanwhile, Drake's reported streams took a noticeable dip, suggesting that certain pockets of success weren't exactly organic. Why does this matter? Because it reveals that the swirl of rumors aimed at Kendrick might just be a smokescreen. When the platform itself calls out inflated streams, it's a warning shot at artists who rely on questionable tactics to stay on top. And Drake's brand has everything to lose. In an effort to clean house and ensure genuine engagement, Spotify employed an extensive audit that targeted any suspicious streaming activity. This included bot networks, automated accounts running nonstop to rack up plays, playlist manipulation, hidden deals where a track is repeatedly looped for hours to boost numbers, paid streams, systems that funnel advertising dollars into repetitive, artificially generated play counts. This wasn't an overnight decision. Reports suggest Spotify had been planning to crack down for months, quietly collecting data before they dropped the hammer. Their goal was simple: restore credibility to the charts by removing artificially inflated numbers. Once Spotify flipped the switch, a handful of top-tier artists saw stream counts drop, sometimes by millions. Drake was among them. While the platform didn't call him out by name, the stats spoke volumes. Meanwhile, Kendrick Lamar, his numbers stayed rock solid. If he'd been buying streams or artificially boosting his stats, we would have seen a dip there, but we didn't. Let's talk about Nokia, Drake's supposed smash hit. If you've been anywhere near social media, you've seen the promotional blitz. From Twitter trends to TikTok dance challenges, it's been near impossible to ignore the song's online presence until you step outside the algorithmic bubble and realize it's not actually everywhere. Drake and OVO have invested heavily, making Nokia appear indispensable to the culture. We're talking high-profile influencer deals, paying or incentivizing big names to spin Nokia in their videos, unusually aggressive playlist additions. The track suddenly popped onto prominent lists where it might not traditionally fit, sponsored posts across multiple platforms, all pushing the same narrative. Nokia is the next big thing. Yet, for all this effort, the organic just feels off. People aren't quoting lines or sharing heartfelt takes on its cultural impact. Instead, it's a lot of forced promotion, creating a sort of phantom popularity that, ironically, gets overshadowed by the real grassroots excitement surrounding Kendrick Lamar's releases. Why is Drake doing this now? Insiders speculate that after seeing the cultural waves Kendrick has been making with tracks like Not Like Us, Drake felt pressure to reclaim his spot at the top. Nokia was supposed to be the song that reaffirmed his dominance, the track that overshadowed any competitor. But as we're learning, you can't artificially create the kind of deep cultural resonance that Kendrick's music has. The Drake-Kendrick rivalry isn't new, but in the past year, Drake's camp escalated the war of words, accusing Kendrick of inflating streams and receiving special treatment from the industry. Why Kendrick? Because he's arguably the only rapper who can rival Drake's mainstream clout while still maintaining hip-hop credibility. The argument often goes like this: Kendrick is too big, too fast. He must have label backing that skews the numbers. Fans spun conspiracies about secret deals with streaming services, claiming that Kendrick's tracks are artificially boosted by corporate money. Where's the proof? That's the crux of the issue. None of these accusations ever came with hard evidence. Fans and bloggers repeated the same rumor: Kendrick's success is rigged, but they never produced data or official confirmations, just tweets and speculation. Now, Spotify's audit has handed us the receipts. If Kendrick's streams were rigged, we'd see them drop after the audit, but they didn't. The actual outcome? Drake's streams plummeted instead. It's a classic case of projection, where the accuser ends up revealing more about themselves than their target. We don't have exact figures for how many streams Drake lost. Insider chatter suggests it could be in the millions across multiple tracks. Nokia might not be the only song impacted, either. But even a modest dip is enough to tarnish Drake's credibility, especially given his unwavering stance that Kendrick's success was fraudulent. Important note, none of these revelations directly accuse Drake of personally running bot farms. Streaming manipulation can come from a variety of sources: third-party companies, overzealous marketing teams, or even well-intentioned but misguided fans. Still, the end result is the same. Drake's stats aren't as pristine as they appeared. Meanwhile, Kendrick's numbers have stayed consistent. The absence of any drop suggests his fan base is genuine. Listeners actually replay his music, share it organically, and bring it into mainstream discussions without needing forced pushes. That's a testament to not just his artistry, but also the authenticity of his audience engagement. This isn't Drake's first run-in with accusations of number fudging or narrative control. Remember the swirling claims during his rivalry with Meek Mill, or the rumor manipulated online polls during rap feuds. Each time Drake faced serious opposition, there seemed to be a suspicious wave of data or social feedback proclaiming him a winner, sometimes before the music even had time to sink in with audiences. Could it be strategic marketing? Absolutely. Drake's team is famously adept at controlling the narrative, rolling out social media campaigns that shape fan perception. However, when marketing crosses a line into artificial hype, like fake polls or bot streams, it ceases to be clever promotion and starts looking like desperation. The difference now is scale. Platforms are more transparent, fans are more tech-savvy, and the industry's tolerance for artificial streaming is lower than ever. In an age where data is king, being exposed for inflating numbers is akin to doping in sports. People question every record you've ever set. Charts are one thing, but cultural penetration is another. Kendrick Lamar's music has a knack for sparking conversations about social issues, creative innovation, and the very nature of hip-hop. He's been name-dropped at award shows, late-night comedy sketches, and even academic panels discussing rap's artistic merit. This is a kind of organic reach that money can't buy. You can't purchase your way into the Oscars conversation or have your lyrics dissected in college courses just by gaming streaming numbers. That's the intangible power of authentic artistry, and it's exactly what Drake seems unable to replicate with Nokia. While Drake excels at making pop-friendly hits, Kendrick has tapped into something deeper, a cultural resonance that bridges mainstream acceptance and hip-hop purism. Not Like Us, for instance, isn't just about radio spins. It resonates with serious hip-hop heads, social justice advocates, and even casual listeners who find layers of meaning in his verses. That resonance places Kendrick on a pedestal Drake used to occupy. And if the Spotify audit is any indication, Drake's attempts to cling to that top spot by artificial means are backfiring. Naturally, Drake's hardcore fans are pushing back. They claim the streaming dip doesn't prove anything, or that it's a glitch in Spotify's system. Some double down on the notion that industry insiders are out to sabotage Drake's success. A few even argue that Drake is so big, of course his numbers would look suspicious. It's the price of superstardom. The real damage might be among casual fans who stumbled across the story. They see headlines about Drake's artificially inflated streams and wonder, have I been tricked into thinking this guy's bigger than he really is? It sows doubt, making them second guess his entire discography. Once that doubt sets in, it's hard to undo. On the flip side, Kendrick's community feels vindicated. After months of hearing claims that their favorite artist was cheating the system, they have tangible evidence to point to, evidence that suggests Kendrick's success is as real as it gets. Many see it as poetic justice. The guy who spent months throwing shade at Kendrick got exposed for the very sin he was accusing Kendrick of committing. Hip-hop is more than a genre. It's a culture built on authenticity, skill, and storytelling. When artists resort to artificially boosting their numbers, it dilutes the culture's foundation. It says, what matters isn't the music or the message, it's how well you can game the system. That's a dangerous precedent that runs counter to the very spirit of hip-hop. The streaming economy has become a battlefield for chart positions. In this environment, a single day at number one can fuel headlines, social media bragging rights, and brand partnerships. But as Spotify and other platforms tighten their regulations, artists who rely on these shortcuts will find themselves increasingly at risk. If Drake, one of the world's biggest rappers, can be caught in the crosshairs, it sends a message: no one is too big to fail. If you're not earning those streams organically, you might get exposed, and your reputation might never recover. What's next for Drake? Option A, damage control. Drake could attempt to brush this off as a misunderstanding, blaming a third-party marketing firm or overzealous fans for the inflated streams. That might save some face if done transparently, but it won't erase the skepticism. He would also need to pivot away from a narrative war against Kendrick, acknowledging that these allegations were baseless, and possibly apologizing, though that's not something Drake is known for. Option B, double down. He could also go on the offensive, maintaining a stance that Kendrick's success is propped up by secret deals, claiming that Spotify's audit was flawed or biased. This path would likely deepen the rift between him and the platform, potentially risking future support. It might rally the die-hard Drake stans, but it would alienate the general audience that's already skeptical. Option C, evolve artistically. The most radical and arguably best move would be to shift focus back to the music. Instead of trying to force a chart-topping narrative, Drake could take a page from Kendrick's book and invest in substance, innovation, and genuine engagement. If he can craft an album or single that truly resonates, he might recapture the respect he's losing, but that requires humility and a willingness to grow, traits that aren't always associated with the Drake brand. Kendrick Lamar hasn't commented much on the swirling rumors. His silence speaks volumes. By refusing to engage in petty back and forth, he looks even more focused on the art itself. Every time Drake's team or fans throw out new accusations, Kendrick's camp simply releases another track, another visual, or another collaboration. And each time, the critics and fans respond with organic excitement. As it stands, Kendrick is setting the standard for what real success in hip-hop looks like in 2025 and beyond. No shortcuts, no bots, just a loyal fan base, critical acclaim, and cultural relevance that extends beyond music. If Drake wants to dethrone Kendrick, gaming the system clearly isn't the answer. If you think this is the end of the story, think again. The streaming era is still evolving, and platforms like Spotify, Apple Music, and Tidal might continue to refine their detection methods for artificial plays. More audits could come, possibly hitting other big names. What happens if entire catalogs are re-examined? Which other artists might see their stats plummet? We'll also be watching how labels respond. Will they crack down on internal teams or partners who promise inflated numbers? Are we on the brink of a new era where raw talent and genuine fan support matter more than marketing budgets? If you're reading or watching this, your voice matters. Do you think Drake can bounce back with a real organic hit? Are you tired of hearing about bot streams and label conspiracies? Or do you believe there's still a hidden angle to the Kendrick versus Drake feud? Drop a comment, share this post, or tag a friend who's hashtag Team Kendrick or hashtag Team Drake. The more conversations we spark, the clearer the hip-hop landscape becomes. Fans collectively hold massive power. If we demand data transparency from streaming services, it becomes harder for anyone, whether it's Drake or a newcomer, to manipulate the system. And if an artist has the skill, the authenticity, and the willingness to innovate, they won't need to cheat to rise to the top. Drake is still a giant in the music world. There's no denying that. But this scandal might mark the beginning of the end for his undisputed reign. The very platform that once propelled him to record-breaking numbers is now exposing potential cracks in the facade. Meanwhile, Kendrick Lamar's steady audit-proof stats only magnify the difference between an artist riding genuine momentum and one possibly fueled by artificial hype. In a culture that values realness above all else, being labeled a fraud is a near-fatal blow. Drake has a choice: adapt and reclaim authenticity, or risk watching his legacy erode as fans and industry players realize the emperor might have no clothes. So we think, are we witnessing Drake's downfall, or is this just a bump in the road for one of rap's most prolific superstars? Will Kendrick continue his ascension, untouched by the drama? Share your thoughts below. Hit like if you appreciate the deep dive, and consider subscribing for more breakdowns on the biggest stories shaping hip-hop today. Because at the end of the day, numbers can lie unless they're tested. And in this new era of auditing and accountability, the truth has a way of shining through every marketing smokescreen. Stay tuned, because the next chapter in Drake's saga could redefine how we measure success in hip-hop for years to come.